Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock. I'm with the Asset Protection Estate Planning Business Planning firm Barth Calderon. We're located here in Orange County, California, serving people across the country, helping them with their planning. This is Wealth Protector TV, where we have guests that are doing great things, and certainly Alexandra Alvarado is one of them. She is the Director of Education for the American Apartment Owners Association. We have a great alliance with them. And we're going to get right into this. Alexandra, thanks for being here because you have some hot news off the press. We were talking a bit about it offline, but what's going on?
Yes. Recently found out that the National Center for State Courts, which is a nonprofit, non-government agency, but they do advise courts on how to handle things like eviction records. They came out with essentially what they call an eviction record sealing strategy PDF for courts,
Okay, you got to
teaching
explain it because
them.
I don't know what that means.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into it. So landlords, we all know about eviction records, right? That's a very common use of background screening. You're going to get an eviction record. However, there's been a movement since the pandemic to seal eviction records. What that means is not give access to the public, aka landlords, to know that the tenant was evicted.
Oh,
So essentially, that means fewer people having eviction records that are public.
wow.
And really, I think what that leaves landlords with is, well, I kind of still want to know if they've been
Right.
evicted. What do I do? Right.
Yeah.
And what is the court exactly doing differently? And so every court has a different process. You all know this, especially if you're a landlord you have multiple properties in
Right.
multiple states.
Right.
You're going to have completely different experiences court to court.
Mm-hmm.
That goes for most things. Now, with eviction, some courts are requiring landlords now to go through a mediation program before they get into the judgment. It's not as simple in some courts to just go through the eviction process and get the
Oh,
judgment. So now this document is saying there are about 22 states that are on board with this to essentially put a pause somewhere in that process to say, hey, let's mediate. And that can be a good thing, I think, for tenants in that it gives them time. So it buys them time. But certainly it also can allow the landlord to negotiate with the tenant under this court mediation process. And if successful, perhaps the landlord might see something come of it. But at the end of the day, it is going to cost more time, right? So the evictions may not be as efficient or fast as they used to be, but it's in the interest of hopefully coming to a resolution with the tenant. And that's the goal, really, of these types of programs.
well, let me ask you a couple of questions because it's interesting. So, first of all, average wise, if some, and maybe it's different state by state, but if a landlord wants to evict somebody, how long did that normally take on average?
It ranges quite a bit. You have
Oh,
some states where it's pretty fast, right? They essentially don't ask for much. Texas is going to be probably the fastest. And then you have other states where, now they're including these types of programs where either they're requiring mediation or a rental assistance program. So, for example, there are some states that have now, since COVID, established emergency rental assistance funds that hopefully can help pay a landlord if the tenant qualifies for it and can maybe get their rent forgiven to a certain degree.
is it weeks?
Um,
An eviction, is it weeks or months normally?
Months
Oh,
in a lot
months,
of
months.
states, weeks in the more landlord friendly states.
Okay. And this process then going to arbitration, the recommendation there in these 22 states is designed to what? Keep the tenant there or just to arbitrate
No,
whatever's going to happen?
They state pretty specifically in this report that they want to remove the scarlet E. So like the scarlet letter, right, that goes along with an eviction. People
Oh,
who
okay.
have an eviction have to go about their lives, yet they have this record that follows them
Oh,
everywhere, and it
okay.
makes it harder for them to find housing. So
Got it.
they're trying to prevent that from happening. So if the
Okay.
tenant has missed payments, like, can we work out a payment plan with them?
Yeah.
Do we have a rental assistance program in this state that can help them and pay
Okay.
the landlord in the meantime?
Okay.
Those types of things can help. Or, another one could be, maybe this tenant wasn't all so bad. We seal the record. They still have to move out.
Mm-hmm.
However, the idea being here that nobody knows that they
Right.
went through this process. That's what
Right.
they ultimately want. So it looks like, just looking at some of the metrics from this program so far, 6% of cases went to trial.
Oh,
So even with the mediation, even with the rental assistance and all of that, 64% ended in a settlement agreement. So that means some kind of agreement between the landlord and tenant. And 25% were just dismissed by the landlord. The landlord just let it go.
okay. And before you
So
go, we're gonna have to get your pooch there on camera
you
to
see
tell us,
her?
yeah, what's going on. Yeah, yeah. I
Just
love it. I
roaming
love it.
around behind me. She usually is
Well,
just
he
in her
wants to
little
speak.
room,
Well,
but
well, he has something to say.
she's looking at me like, what?
I, that's hilarious. Love it. So, is this a law or is this a ruling? Like, what do you have to do it, or what is the deal with it?
It really just means that if your local court happens to adopt some of these programs, because it's up to the local court whether they want to do that or
Okay.
not,
Okay.
you might start to see a lot of these cases that are going to get routed into either a mandatory or a semi-mandatory settlement process, or having maybe a longer time frame. So they might push it out from the tenant needing to respond within a week to maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So they give the tenant more time, or mediation is required, or they give the tenant the opportunity to apply for rental assistance if they qualify. So that just means that your court could be next to adopt something like this. And if that happens in your area, just be aware that those eviction processes can take a lot longer or never even reach trial. So it's just going to change a lot, I think, in certain areas, what a typical eviction timeline and
Right.
process looks like.
How do you find out who the 22 states are? You guys putting it up on your website, or how are you getting the word out?
Yeah, so it'll probably be on our website soon, AAOA.com. You can see it probably under our latest news, our blog, but the list is about 22 courts have said they're going to participate. 24 have joined overall. So 22 to 24 state and local courts are going to be involved in this. So we got Indiana, Kansas, Michigan, New York, Tennessee. There's specific courts within those states that are going to be doing it. So
Okay.
like, New York, you got the Brooklyn Housing Court, the Suffolk County District Court. So it's basically about 22 courts or so that are saying, hey, you know what? We want to try this model out based on the suggestion from this organization. And they're all doing it slightly differently, but they're taking little bits and pieces from this guidance that's being
Okay.
provided. So really, just the takeaways for landlords, right? You want to know if there is something called a local diversion process for evictions. That's what it's really, the technical term,
Okay.
diversion. And or if they are going to have any sort of rental assistance for the applicant. That can be a good thing for the landlord. I think most landlords just want to get paid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, if that helps, that's great. It could be kind of cumbersome. We saw
Yeah.
that during COVID, right? Rental
Yeah.
assistance was a little, depending on the place, a little hard to get through, but they are still out there, those programs. And then the other thing I would say is expect fewer just default judgments. So in those areas where maybe you used to just be able to get a judgment really quickly, just show the tenant didn't pay, get the judgment, get them out, that process might take longer in some
Okay.
places now. And also there might be more of these sort of sealed records. So when you're screening tenants, you may not find that they have an eviction record, even if they may have been evicted. And
Yep.
so, what I suggest for that is just to be really, really good about income verification. If you can verify their income, that really does help, I think, in preventing an eviction. That's usually the main cause. A lot of applicants fake their paycheck stubs.
Right.
So
Right.
then it becomes difficult if they have no money in the bank, no savings,
Right.
and they also lied about their paycheck, and then something happens in their life and they fall behind. So
Right.
having that extra check to see what's in their bank account and making sure you're double, triple checking their income, calling the employer. We actually have a product that we're going to sort of beta launch. It's not yet completely in every account, but we are actually connecting with the IRS to verify
Oh.
income
Oh,
using
wow.
the IRS's system. So you would know exactly how much at least they earned the previous year and if it's still the same employer. And that can also help with like someone who's self-employed. If, you know, what they
Oh,
made
right.
last year might be a good reflection of what they make this year. So there's some ways now that we're starting to tap into how to verify income. There's also bank verification as well, where
Mm-hmm.
a tenant can give access to their bank information and how much savings they have. And we
Yep.
can verify that now too.
Yep.
So those kinds of things I think are going to become more important as we are seeing this movement towards having fewer of these evictions go to trial and or be reported to the public, aka landlords.
Yep, great information. And I want to tell everybody, as always, who you're listening is around this video. Alexandra's information will be there. Website, AAOA.com. Is that, I got that right?
Yes,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Great resources there. And so thanks for listening, Alexandra. Always good hot takes on everything. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Paul.